Welcome back into Building the Board, where we've been addressing all of the Cowboys' needs this offseason, heading into the 2024 NFL Draft. We've broken down the need for linebacker, wide receiver, running back, and defensive line. Today, we're talking all things cornerbacks. I've got Nick Harris, Youmans, who will be joining the show in just a few moments. But Nick Harris, come on now, get in the shot for me.
What's going on,
What's going on, man? I mean, a lot of things to touch on. Obviously, the cornerback position is a need for the Cowboys, possibly maybe later in the rounds. What's your thoughts on that position?
Yeah, you look at the cornerback position and how it's kind of evolved on the team over the offseason. You have Stephon Gilmore, who's still waiting out there in free agency, but there's an expectation that him and the Cowboys are not going to be able to come to an agreement. But they were able to bring back Jordan Lewis to fill that nickel role, and then you also get Trayvon Diggs back from his torn ACL injury. Now, do you want to have depth to be able to provide help if Trayvon Diggs cannot be ready for the start of the season, or if an injury happens throughout the course of an 18-week season? That's where you probably start thinking about the draft. And if you want to bring in a guy with a day 3 draft pick to be able to bring in and be a depth option in case one of those injuries does happen, I think that's a case that you could really make for a tier 2 need for the Cowboys this offseason.
What are your thoughts on the way that cornerback position actually panned out in the 2023 season? I mean, we saw a lot of success from there. LaDaron Bland, Stephon Gilmore really making an impact in that room as well.
Yeah, whenever Trayvon Diggs went down with the injury, I think a lot of fans were probably giving a little bit of pause as to what the corner situation would eventually look like. But then DaRon Bland stepped up, and he was able to be an all-pro in 2023. I think he exceeded all expectations for even himself. I think even he would tell you that. But then you look later in the season when Stephon Gilmore was battling that shoulder injury that he suffered against Washington. You could tell it affected the scheme of the defense in that playoff loss to Green Bay. You really could have used a really reliable depth option at corner to be able to play in place of Stephon Gilmore, I think, in that wild card game last year. I think if you're able to do that, the defense would have been able to stay in their man scheme, and things may have been looked a little different, but nevertheless, I think that corner situation, you see how much that depth is needed whenever injuries do appear. You had 2 of them at really inopportune times last year. One of them you're able to bail out, the other one not so much. Let's go ahead and get some depth and be able to provide more help when that time arrives again.
You talk about the need for depth at almost any position, but especially that cornerback position when you talk about the injuries that room has really faced. We've got Youmans, though, to talk about the different possibilities, who could land here with that position here in the Dallas Cowboys.
And here's the thing, Nicole, when it comes to those possibilities, it's not always abundant for the Dallas Cowboys. There's a couple different things that you have to look at whenever it comes to the corner position. You feel pretty good about what you have in-house, but you could possibly add something a little bit later on depth-wise. I've got a couple of prospects to look at. The first one is Ennis Rakestraw Jr. out of Missouri, 5'11", 185 pounds almost. Whenever you look at what Rakestraw brings to the table, it's a game-making ability. He missed the back half of the 2021 season with the torn ACL. He came back with a vengeance, started all 13 games in 2022 for Missouri. Then he had a great season this past year as well. Missed some time with a groin injury, but let's take a look at what he can bring to your football team. One thing he does is he has great vision, great awareness, and he reads the football well. Just watch the way that he reads as he's playing in the slot here. He's all the way off the line of scrimmage, and he just backpedals, looking, always finding a way to make a play. Had his eyes on this target all the way through. You got to catch the ball, my man. You got to have Ennis Rakestraw. You got to have the interception. He only had 1 pick during his entire tenure with Missouri, but that's one way that he can track the ball. Another one is he's very sticky with press man. He needs to be better at reading coverage in the zone capabilities. He did a great job there, but then here in man-to-man, he stays right on top of things. This was his bread and butter. Great job against LSU. This isn't one of those top wide receivers from LSU that you have in the NFL draft this year, but he's able to stick through and stay in that hip pocket. Next prospect is a better prospect in my eyes. Somebody that the Cowboys have been interested and linked to really from the early days of the NFL draft process, and that is T.J. Tampa out of Iowa State. Man, is he a fun watch. You talk about physicality, the ability to play both in zone and in man. He can do both of those things exceptionally well, and he plays the football as well. Let's go ahead and start things off. I've got a couple different looks at it. Here he is in the slot right side of the screen. He can play inside, he can play outside. This time, he almost runs the route for the receiver all the way through. 0 separation allowed, and he has the interception. He was basically a receiver on that play. There's option number 1. Here he's off the screen. He's over here outside of the field of view as we go ahead and snap this one. You've got the read option with the run. Look at him. Look at him right here in the back corner of your screen. Stays hungry. stays wanting to make a play, and you want to see these corners have an ability to step up and make a tackle or be willing to step up and be physical in the run game. Here he is again in terms of pass play. This is a slant over the middle to the tight end. I just want to play this through. Let's just play this full speed. Here you go. Ready? Boom. You don't want to catch the ball when TJ Tampa is anywhere nearby. Actually, let's play it one more time. There you go. Ready? Boom. That's what I like to see from a corner who can play inside and outside. The physicality, the ability to hit. He brings that to the table in bunches. Whenever you're looking at corners, you're not going to get these top guys. You're not going to get the Arnolds. You're not going to get these early prospects like a DeJean or a McKinstry. You need to find value if you're the Dallas Cowboys. And Nick, there's some value later in this draft. I think Tampa and Rakestraw are two great examples on how to maybe tap into that a little bit.
Yeah, if you're looking there on day 2 and you want to be able to identify that corner need in round 3 potentially, I think you could look at Rakestraw. You could look at Tampa. TJ Tampa was somebody that the Cowboys met with formally at the Combine, so they've done their homework on him. And this Rakestraw is a Duncanville product. He's a local product, so they've done their homework on him as well. But then you also look into day 3, and there's still going to be some value there. You got guys like Renardo Green out of Florida State, DJ James out of Auburn. Both of those guys bring a lot of value there in rounds 4 and round 5. You can be able to find a guy in those later rounds that can come in and contribute to be that depth option that we talked about, Nicole.
When you guys talk about physicality from TJ Tampa, that's something that he told me one-on-one at the Combine, you know, that he prides himself on his being so physical in this game. When you talk about that word, though, how much are you looking for physicality within these corners?
Well, you've got to find a little bit of it, because if you think about the way that you're set up from a defensive standpoint for Dallas, you've got Trayvon Diggs. He's more of a finesse, ball-hawking sort of corner. Same thing now with DaRon Bland. He's had the interceptions, and he has the physicality of wanting to get up there and get it, but he's a smaller-framed corner. So I think if you're going to add to this cornerback room, you want to look for that same level of mentality. A lot of times it's physical. You have the long arms. TJ Tampa has great length. He's got 32.25 length arms. He's got an opportunity to utilize that length to his possibility. But even then, it's a mindset. It's a mentality that you have to tap into, and I think this Cowboys team is looking to add that to their cornerback stash.
And you think about what Mike Zimmer, he specializes in whenever
Right.
he brings in defensive backs and corners specifically. It's those guys that can be physical from directly off the line and be able to stick with them and mirror the route coverage from an opposing receiver. If he can bring in a guy that he can hone in on those press man skills, I think of a guy in round 7 like Marcellus Dial out of South Carolina who has some press man ability, be able to come in and hone in those skills, he'll be able to bring in a good depth option as well.
Are there any wild card guys that you could possibly see the Cowboys taking maybe day 3 option?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of names that I think could be versatile options. I'll start with Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. I think he's a guy that can play on the outside, play on the inside. And then if you want a guy that can play more so corner and then move back to safety potentially, now he hasn't shown a lot of it from his college career, but I think based on his traits, he has the ability to move back to safety, is Josh Newton out of TCU. He's a Monroe native. He did great things for that Horned Frog secondary whenever they made that run to the national championship a couple of years ago. I think those are two guys that would give you versatility there on day 2 and day 3.
Looking for physicality, looking for versatility. You're looking for it all when scouting these cornerbacks. A lot to look forward to in this 2024 NFL Draft, and we'll see who the Cowboys possibly choose. But that's a wrap for this episode of Building the Board. We'll see you next time.